The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Casting your mind back a few months now to this here. A WrestleVersary 4 from your hometown, the Cheltenham Town Hall as well. And here's a picture of the fantastic venue itself. We're going to talk about kind of this match here and your journey with Southwest Wrestling, because when we last spoke, I think you hadn't long had your debut for Southwest Wrestling in Cheltenham against a certain Nina Samuels at the Frog and Fiddle. Now, what's a kind of a full circle moment going from a couple of years ago, making your debut in Cheltenham for Southwest Wrestling, albeit a different venue, to this past June at the Cheltenham Town Hall in front of hundreds of your fans, your friends, your work colleagues, your family members, where you became the Southwest Wrestling Warriors champion. And I'll bring up some pictures here because it really was a very, very special occasion. Cast your mind back to that day in early June, earlier on this year. Do you still get kind of goosebumps when you think about that day, that whole occasion and the outcome?
Yeah, that show was very special to me. I always say that, New Wave is my home promotion because obviously it's where I train. But actually to have a promotion that is, I don't live in Wales, I obviously live in Cheltenham. So to have a promotion who is physically a bit closer to home is wonderful. So to be kind of part of the Southwest Wrestling family now, and to be their Warriors champion is just the best thing ever. Like, to have made my debut in Cheltenham in the Frog and Fiddle, in the venue where I started watching wrestling, to then go and work at the Town Hall, which is an extremely prestigious wrestling venue anyway. To win the Warriors title there was just amazing. And we built up a story with obviously myself and LA Taylor and Charlie Morgan, and Jetta was there as well. So it was really lovely to work with those two, and obviously to work with LA Taylor as well. And to be able to win the title in my hometown with, like you said, my friends and family and work colleagues was fantastic. And the mayor of Cheltenham, he was in the crowd, which was lovely. And the mayor of Cheltenham was actually the chairman of Cheltenham Town Football Club, who I've supported my whole life. So to be able to go and shake the mayor's hand, who was also the chairman of the football club I support, was quite cool. That was a quite nice little moment. And yeah, it was a really, really lovely day. To be able to work in that venue was amazing. And to be able to win a title there was very special.
So I'm going to bring up some pictures here of the match itself. Such a wonderful venue. I've worked in there a few times, but this is easily one of the best shows I've ever seen or been a part of. Yeah, absolutely incredible. Your match against Charlie Morgan and LA Taylor. That was, I believe, the pin for the 3 counts.
It was, yeah.
And Rory handed you the championship. There you are with your hand raised aloft. Enjoying every moment and thoroughly deserving of.
And I got a message and it just said, are you free WrestleMania weekend? And I'm like, yeah, what you got in mind? And I just got sent a tweet of Matt Cardona saying, I challenge Kane at WrestleMania. And I was like, all right, let's do this. We're cooking. It took once it was announced, it took I won't go into it again because we've done it a few times, but the lawyers, obviously I'm Blue Payne now, the lawyers did come in. I do think I've got a credible defense, but I don't want to go to war with WWE. I made some changes. I changed the name. But ECW announced Blue Kane versus Memes, and I see the graphic and I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad. And 45 minutes later, email. I see you've reneged on our agreement to not appear as, but I'm like, no, this was an accident. I didn't make it clear to them that I had to change the name, and they changed it. They put the graphic out, and thankfully, I just about got there. But I was even a couple of days before. I was like, oh, I have my confirmation. I just want confirmation so I can be sure I can do this without, getting sued into the ground. Thankfully, I got to do it. It was one of the coolest things ever. Biggest audience I've ever wrestled in front of. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
Let's bring up some pictures. And obviously, we brought this one up earlier on. But these are all from your entrance. Was it the Penn's Landing Arena or Penn's Landing Center in Philadelphia? Yeah. And there you are in the ring.
That's it. And this, I mean, it's not really shown in these pictures, but this room was huge. And this was I think this was the show of the day that actually sold out completely. And there was a moment, you got to see a few more people there. There must have been at least 1,500, 2,000 people there, I'd say.
Really? That's incredible.
And there's a moment where, the choke slam, look at that. There's a moment
you got
there. Cardona, he can jump, I'll tell you that. There's a moment where I have, oh God, yeah, I took a chair to the face as well. That was fun. A moment where I took, I threw Broski Jimmy off the stage through a table in a wheelchair. Because obviously, there it is. We were building up to that the whole way through. That's what everyone wanted to see. We did the spot, and I just stood there, and I was like, I'm in the exact perfect place, just take in this moment. So you'll see me stand there for 10, 15 seconds, literally looking around. Obviously, I look super intimidating, but I'm just looking around the room at the sea of people there, and I'm like, if I stay here for a second, I might get a really cool Sandman in the crowd shot. And I just about got it. But it was just so cool at that moment just to look around and be like, I cannot believe I am wrestling the biggest independent star in the world, in America, on WrestleMania weekend for the biggest independent promotion in the US, or in the world, arguably. It was so good. And GCW looked after me so well. Like, it was incredible. It was genuinely incredible.
I've got to say, looking at this double choke slam here, and you mentioned, is that Broski Jimmy in your right hand there? But he got some height.
This was a fake Zack Ryder.
Oh, so right.
The ref was down. Cardona went for the pin. Zack Ryder's music hits. Zack Ryder comes out. Looks like he's going to go after Matt Cardona. I take I think it was a low blow. I get beaten up through. I think I went through a table. I can't remember what I did. I got demolished by the two of them. They're all celebrating. I sit up and give them a double choke slam.
And we'll talk a bit about the end, because there was you got a fireball to the face, and that kind of spelt the ends. Followed by a Rough Rider. I'm not even sure if he calls that anymore, but that's what I'm going to call it. And then it took 4 people to pin your shoulders to the mat.
4 people and a fireball.
Exactly.
And of course, fire is my only weakness, so he knew what he was doing. But yeah, that was the fireball with a nice surprise. We'll put it that way. I've never lost a match by fireball before. Yes, it's very rare that Blue Pain ever gets pinned. In fact, I think I've been pinned twice before this. So it's, but yeah, losing to Matt Cardona when 57 people interfered, and in front of that audience, I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. And I took a fireball to the face.
But another one of your highlights from last year, and I'm going to bring up the pictures now, would have been this here. And your match for the Sendai Girls World Championship. And hell of a match, hell of an occasion for you. I know that you've got a rich history with Sendai Girls, which we will take a deep dive into. But there you are with the Sendai Girls World Championship and the trophy after the match, looking ever so pleased, having accomplished, what you did on that day. Now, your opponent, Mika Iwata. Now, I've probably butchered that, but I know that she's, let's say, a famed wrestler over in Sendai Girls and was a wonderful champion for them. But tell us, what did that crowning moment for yourself mean to you? And especially, after the history you've had with Sendai Girls. And I think you possibly became their first ever Triple Crown champion.
It was such a big moment for me career-wise, but more like a personal achievement, because like you say, I first went to Japan when I was 18 and I knew nothing. Like I I'd been abroad before on my own wrestling, but obviously never to like a place like Japan where it's so different, like the culture's so different. And like you say, I won the junior championship, which was incredible. I won the tag championships with Charlie, and then to go and win that championship, it was just such an incredible honor that Miko thought I was capable of being in that position. And it was just, I was so nervous beforehand, and when it was done and I finally had the championship, it was just one of those moments that always will put a smile on my face. Oh, there
Absolutely.
we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
And there you are with Mako after the match. I can't read Japanese. I don't know what the certificate said, but you both look very, very pleased with that outcome. And obviously, it meant an awful lot to you, considering your history with the company. But where would you rank that achievement, becoming the Sendai Girls World Champion? Where would you rank that in your list of accomplishments over your career so far, Millie?
I would have to say that is probably one of the top, just because of the sentimental value and the moment of winning the championship. But mainly, like, when I lost it, I think it was such a moment again. Even I walked backstage and Miko was just stood there crying, and I was like, oh God. And then I started crying, then we were all crying, and it was like, it was my last day in Japan, so it was just a perfect end to the tour. And it was just a really happy, although obviously I lost the championship, hopefully I'll get it back one day, but it was just a happy moment, like a full circle moment. And I was just happy that Miko saw something in me when I was 17, 18 training. I didn't really know what I was doing, and now that she's trusted me, and we now are real life friends, and I do see her outside of wrestling, it's just nice that all came from that one moment.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take liberties. I'm going to answer Darren's question on your behalf. Who's your toughest opponent? Because it has to be the tables from Hello Wembley, doesn't it? Hey, they have to be your toughest opponent. But scrolling along the bottom of the screen, day 2 and that promo exchange in the ring was absolutely fantastic, and set us up perfectly for what we saw the following day. And of course, what we saw on day 2 was Callum Newman siding with Robbo and with Will, so it did make it a perfect 3-on-3 encounter. But day 3 we saw that match happen, and it was fantastic. It was everything we wanted from that match. It was everything we wanted from CPF versus the Swords of Essex. And like I say, the action was hard hitting. It was fast paced. Had the crowd on their feet. And watching you guys mix it up against Callum and Will and the returning Robbo was something very, very special. What do you remember about the match in particular, Danny?
Apart from the pain in my foot after.
Apart from the broken foot.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's the most emotional I've been after a match. Like, I think the camera pans to me and Joe after Mayhew gets pinned, and we're literally just sobbing on the outside, and that wasn't part of the storyline. We was legit like crying, just because like the match meant so much to us, for so many reasons. Like, obviously, like we had it's I don't know, it's hard to put into words. Like, Will I credit him for literally being like the person that made me want to wrestle. Because I didn't really know too much about wrestling outside of WWE until I got shown his match with Ricochet at Best of Super Juniors.
Wow.
And I watched that match, and obviously, like, it just blew me away. And like seeing a guy that I could relate to as well. Like, obviously he was like not the biggest guy. He wasn't Batista or Brock Lesnar. Like, I could never relate to those guys. Sure. But seeing like a guy from it, like he had the Union Jack on his knee pad, I was like, oh, he's from England. And then, yeah, like seeing the things he did, I was just like, I need to do this. So, yeah, literally the reason I started wrestling was because of Will Ospreay. So, and to get to wrestle him, especially at that time, like that was summer of Ospreay. Like he was wrestling like however many stars Meltzer gave his matches, like Kenny Omega, Marufuji. He, like, that whole summer he was literally a 5-star match factory. Yeah. So to get to wrestle him at, like, I wouldn't say his peak, because like he still hasn't peaked yet. Like, you saw the match with Daniel Bryanson, like Daniel, yeah, literally, like, so to get to be in the ring with him and learn from him. And Robbo's another one. Like, I was meant to work him a few times in the past, but for some reason, like the matches always ended up getting changed, and we never got to wrestle. So to finally get to do that and to be his like return match in the ballroom, that meant a lot to me. And obviously to wrestle alongside Joe and Lewis and have Callum in the match as well.
Yeah.
As I said, like they're literally my best friends, my brothers. Like it's not a gimmick. We're literally like I've got, where is it? Got it tattooed on me, like.
Mate, that's so cool.
So yeah, like they're my best friends, and to get to share that moment, knowing how much it meant to everyone involved, like it was just the emotion overcome us. So yeah,
absolutely. Going to bring up some pictures here, and there you are prior to the match, or prior to the bell sounding, and Robbo finding out what your slap is all about. But there we go, putting the hurts on to Callum, and a stiff kick to the chest of Ospreay, and there we go. Once again, but a great match, one that you'll remember forever. But I watched the match back in preparation for speaking to you today. A couple of things that really stood out. Well, in fact, one thing twice over was Will Ospreay's chops to your chest. They were so hard, they made your legs wobble. Now, I'm sure that there was an element of selling involved, Danny, but I know that Will is not just one of the best wrestlers in the world, if not the best, but he's one of the hardest hitters as well, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. There's not much to say on that one. Yeah, he hits really, really hard. Definitely up there, like probably I'd say top 4 people whose chops hurt the most is Will's, no particular order. Will's up there. Driller is up there, Luke Jacobs is up there, and one that surprises a lot of people, Chuck Mambo. His chops suck, man. He hits so hard. I don't know how or why, but honestly, when he chops you, like you just feel it through your entire body. Like it's weird.
Yeah. And so what else was really, really cool was after the match, Ospreay put you guys over on the microphone, didn't he? And he said that he hadn't been to Progress for a long time, but one thing that he always hears is how CPF always steal the show whenever they're performing. And that was no truer words said, to be honest with you. And that must have been pretty cool to hear that. I know that you were emotional after the match, but to hear that must have been another special moment for you.
Yeah, honestly, like, yeah, we wasn't expecting it, and like he obviously didn't have to do that. Like,
No.
The match is done. He's Will Ospreay. He's celebrating. Robbo's back in the ballroom. He's celebrating. Like, he didn't have to take the time to get on the mic and do that for us. So, and I feel like if we didn't earn it from him, he wouldn't have done that. So, like, the fact that he did obviously meant so much to us. And like, yeah, just looking back on it, I remember. Like, we was literally about to walk out, and then we hear him on the mic. So I just took a seat. I was like, oh, I'm knackered. Like, what's gonna happen? And then yeah, to hear that, it just obviously like meant.
We're going to talk about WOS, the return, and Megan asks again, what was it like wrestling for WOS, the return? So let's jump straight to it, Nathan. And first of all, how did you get the opportunity to be part of that brand, those tapings, which I think was the back end of September, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously, we're all aware, and wrestling fans all over the UK and all over the world are aware of the history and the legacy of WOS, the world of sport. And of course, you've had the opportunity to be part of the tapings. I think it was all on one day, but it was an afternoon and an evening show where you had a few different matches as part of them tapings. But how did it all come together for you in the first instance?
So I think, if I am correct, obviously, I'm not the people in charge, so I don't really know. But from what I understand, so I was doing Seltzy Holiday Park with Brandon at the time, who was also on WOS, probably my greatest rival, Mr. Brandon Lee. And yeah, we were wrestling there, and Steve Linsky came along to referee. He was refereeing that day, and
good guy,
the man for WOS. So I think the job was through him. But again, you know, that was a show for James Mason, and I'm sure he had a lot to do with it too. But either way, what an unbelievable experience to be able to wrestle for the cameras. Like, hopefully the footage ends up somewhere really special, but only time will tell. And hopefully they do lots more shows. But just to be there,
it was just brilliant. Just learning, having a go at working the cameras and being part of a show with that kind of production. And it was the best production I've ever been able to wrestle in front of. And the fans were absolutely brilliant. They really cared about the product. They're really great to see WOS back, and us wrestlers were too. So I think I potentially had my favorite match of this year. There, I wrestled Brandon Lee, and then I had another good opportunity in a triple threat later in the day, and a rumble.
Yeah.
So I got used a bit too. So it was just so brilliant, an honor.
Indeed, you had 3 matches. Let's bring up some pictures because that's what I like to do. And that was the initial graphic advertising your involvement with WOS, the return. You mentioned the fans. What a great atmosphere! What a great production! And kind of that's kind of as professional as you're likely to get. Yeah. And obviously you filmed as a bit of a trailer for ITV, a bit of a pilot, I should say. Here's some action shots where you involved in that rumble. A face-to-face with your greatest foe, Brandon Lee, of course, with one of your patented flying elbows. But a great occasion, and you had 3 matches there. There's the absolutely stacked lineup from the biggest and the best from around the UK and further afield. But a great occasion and a fantastic locker room to be a part of, Nathan.
Absolutely. It's always great when you're in those locker rooms and you just know that you're going to learn from everyone. It's to be the rookie. I think I was the youngest man on that show. Maybe Jack Land he actually was on it too, but thereabouts. And just all these guys that have done so much in wrestling and people that on the shows I'm doing I don't often meet. So I've never really had Shah Samuels be able to watch my match or like any of the other guys. So there was a lot. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Brilliant locker room. The kind of wrestling that I'd be really proud to show my dad. So just wicked, and hopefully there'll be many more.
Yeah, and one of your favourite matches of the year, you said, against Brandon Lee, and we're going to talk a whole lot more about Brandon Lee, but obviously a privilege and a thrill to be a part of it. And you don't know, I know you can't let the cat out of the bag, Nathan, but you don't know kind of how far along the process of maybe this airing on terrestrial TV or some streaming platform. Well, what do you know? What can you tell us?
What I can say is, from what I understand, everybody was really happy with how it went. Both, everybody behind the scenes, and I think all the wrestlers did the job that they wanted to see. So I'm really hopeful that something will come of it. But I'm just as excited as all the fans, really. So we'll wait and see.
But following that match with Simon Quest and Jess getting beaten by the future-proof champion at the time, LA Taylor, this was you were on. This was the look on your face. I think that the picture, the face there, says it all, doesn't it? Really, you were clearly pissed off at what had happened. The title had been cruelly stolen from you. But tell us a bit about kind of the journey you went on from there, because you could not only see that you were angry, but probably a very, very focused Artemis on wanting to regain your championship and get back to the top again. And that chase began, and that chase for LA Taylor began that evening. But tell us a bit about the journey you went on to get back to the top of the mountain, so to speak.
Yeah, in many ways, I sort of never had my eyes set on that title. I love being at United, and I'm sort of always along for the ride a little bit. And the opportunity with Simon Quest came up unexpectedly because, unfortunately, Alexxis was injured. Alexxis Falcon was meant to be in that match. And I got given the opportunity because at the time I was ranked number 1, undefeated at United, and was considered to be the number 1 contender. Obviously, that match ended in the way it did. Simon, we went toe-to-toe, and it was a war, and it did take it out of me. And I think for me, that evening, the reason that I was so angry was, LA has every right to cash in her title shot. But it was the way it was done, getting Max to hit me with a belt before going for a shot never felt just to me. Like, that wasn't an even matchup at any point. She was already recovered. Her match had been quite a bit earlier on in the show. She had rest. I was freshly out of a match and then got hit with a belt. So at that point, my eyes were just set then on her. And and just taking it back from her. It clearly meant that much to her. And in many ways, it was just a case of getting that back in my hands. And I felt like I had a right to it at that point.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wasn't the only person with a contendership. So obviously we saw Nina Samuels come back in. She'd previously pinned Simon Quest. So she had a fair claim to it as well. So even then my path wasn't clear. And that match ended, with LA taking a pin after I'd finished on Max. It was all just quite a frustrating time, to be honest. And yeah, Max just couldn't stay out of things. So it's always just felt like never an even matchup. It's always 2v1, 2v1, 2v1. And even on Sunday, LA's too injured to wrestle, but then she's still there at ringside trying to interfere. And for people that weren't there, what actually happened was initially the match did end in a disqualification, because for her there was no incentive not to interfere and get disqualified because she could keep the title.
Yeah.
But the GM Mike actually intervened and said, no, we're not doing it that way. If you're not able to defend it, any disqualification, you drop the belt. It's as simple as that. So we restarted, and it felt a little bit more on even footing. Obviously there were some other unexpected incidents that then did happen throughout the match.
Yeah.
I kind of sort of attributed it a bit to like Hercules going through the trials. It sort of felt a bit like that. It's going through each one, you sort of thinking, oh, I'm getting closer, and something else comes up, and it's getting that win at the end was just, it was, like I said, overwhelming. And it's felt long fought and long earned.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring up some pictures, and of course, it is quite apropos that you actually ended up facing Max Juggard, as you rightly said, because of the amount of times he interfered in pretty much every match that you were in, from when you first won and then lost the championship, and then the journey you had. Here's just some pictures. A shout out to the photographer. It's Luke Lasurf, isn't it?
Yeah,
terrific photographer who does all of United's shows. But your gear, we'll talk about your gear, but I think the lighting was ready-made to show off your gear to its fullest. LA Taylor, injured on the outside, but as you quite rightly said, she did play a part in the match. But here's just a few stills, a few shots from the match itself. And we've got to say, Max, I think you're called a weasel once or twice from the crowd, but he looked fantastic, but he was no match for you in the end. And that's shortly after getting the 3 count, your hand raised by Scarbs, and the championship around your waist, and the rest of the pillars there to join that. But how does it feel to be one half of the WrestleForce Tag Team Champions?
It's pretty cool to have a belt, to be honest, because ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted my own belt. It's just one of those things that you, as growing up, you kind of wanted one. And it was just so sweet as well to be with Nathan as well, because we travel so much together. We're phenomenal friends, and it's just lovely to actually be it with him as well.
Yeah.
It was really fun. It was a great experience, and well, we still have them. So
absolutely. But I mean, I think the two of you have maybe been working for WrestleForce or on WrestleForce shows for roughly the same length of time. The two of you have had a nice little run and a nice little journey with WrestleForce. I think besides all the other promotions that you've wrestled for, WrestleForce, have given you a lot of opportunities and really put a lot of time and effort into the two of you. What's your kind of WrestleForce journey been so far? It looks like you've had a ton of fun.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I think I started my first match at WrestleForce was on October 1st, 2022 in, where was it? New Milton. So it's not too far from where I live. So I think that's why they booked me, because I was very close, and they must have seen someone or liked me or thought, yeah, he's all right, we'll get him back for another one. And it's kind of just slowly snowballed from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to bring up some pictures of you roughing people up in a WrestleForce ring. There you go. Some good pictures there, and I think some of these might have been your solo outings. Might have been from a tag team competition. I'm not sure, but definitely laying the beating into your opponents there, and that's a really cool shot. But like I say, with Nathan Angel, one half of the tag team champions. How many title defenses have you had so far? I've got a rough idea that it might be a couple of defenses so far.
Well, me and Nathan might like to Hulk Hogan it a little bit and say about 80, but it's I think about 7
defenses so far,
roughly.
See, that's not bad. And what I did like about some of these photos, I'm going to bring it back up, is the teamwork from the two of you as well. And I recognise Kieran Lacey because I've worked with him a couple of times at shows, and he was actually alongside Mark True in his Progress debut this past Saturday. But some tremendous photos, and I got a big shout out to Matt Raven, and I will be crediting him an awful lot during the course of this interview for all the wonderful pictures. And there you are, yourself and Nathan Angel. But you said that Nathan's one of your closest buddies in the business, one of your best friends in wrestling. But as the pictures demonstrated there, that the chemistry is there between the two of you as well. And I know that the two of you train, at Joel's ASW South from the new unit there in Salisbury. We'll talk all about that, of course. But the two of you just click in the ring. And let's say you've got a ton of matches against one another. But as a tag team, as one half of the Prestige, or as the Prestige, the two of you have some great chemistry.
Yeah, well, I think it's just because we learn how to wrestle together, so we have a lot of the same ideas, or if one of us has an idea, we also like it or make it better just because we have like the same psychology and we like the same type of wrestling, so we're always quite on the same wavelength with things. So it's quite absolutely nice. There's no like bickering or be like, oh, let's not do that. We're always quite on the same page. It's nice.
Now, I think a lot of people's highlight of yours, certainly from last year, will have been this here, the Clock Strikes Midnight match. I think it was day 3 of Super Strong Style last year. I was there, absolutely enjoyed the hell out of it. One of my favourite matches, one of the best matches of 2023 as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many of your fans are concerned. And I think, the story leading into it, the feud you had with Nina, the build, the promos, the videos that all led to that extraordinary match. We did have a question that came in about it before we went live from Ashley Clements, a big fan of yours. Whose idea was the Clock Strikes Midnight match, as it was his live match of the year for 2023. So high praise from Ashley, saying it's his live match of the year from 2023. But his question is, who came up with the idea?
It actually was me. So with the help of one of the creative guys, Al from Progress. So how it kind of all started was I said, like, I was so sick of doing the rock chick coming out as the gimmick at Progress, and the problem was that at Progress that's why people liked me, and I was just like, oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna be what I want to be and what I still feel like I'm evolving into now, without and still keep the fans kind of on side, because like this is a girl that they've got behind. And it's just not me. Like it really isn't me. And we were spitballing ideas, and the idea of a Disney princess inspired match was something that was really good. And I watched I know it is a heel match, but the only one that was ever done that is even remotely similar, but it's still nowhere near the same, was the do you remember when Regal did that match where like they'd win, I think it was like via a roll up, and then the woman would come on the mic and be like, oh, it's in the rules, you can't win via a roll up. And then
I know which one you're on about. I do.
I can't specifically remember the exact match, but I just remember seeing that and being like, that's a cool concept. And then I was like, what if it was like at random intervals and we were spitballing so many ideas, like, is it going to be something to do with like maybe an apple, like a Snow White style of gimmick? Is it going to be something like with the Cinderella and the Clock Strikes Midnight? And then I was like, Clock Strikes Midnight, that's it, that's the one. And I'm not gonna lie, it was an extremely difficult match to prepare for. On both sides of the curtain. It was an hard match to produce for the people who work at Progress. It was a hard match to do. But it was, I would probably say that was my favourite match that I had last year by a country mile. And it just felt like definitely like the start of like, I know comfortably that the Progress fans are behind me and not behind the gear I come out in or the hair colour that I have or whether I do this on my entrance or whether I wave like a princess. Do you know what I mean? So I absolutely loved that match. And Nina was fantastic in it as well. She took some crazy bumps. Bless her.
Let's just bring up some pictures from that match because it was crazy. And of course, everybody remembers the glass slipper spot. And I mean, I don't know about a Clock Strikes Midnight match. It looked like something out of a Halloween show, to be honest with you, without the blood there. But the match was crazy. The stipulations were crazy. I mean, it started with just a simple one-on-one match, didn't it? Pinfall wins. And then obviously, just as you're about to get the pinfall, the clock strikes midnight, the stipulation changes to a submission match, so on and so forth. That picture there is absolutely awesome.
That's one of my favorite pictures that's ever been took of me in wrestling. Like, I ended up in hospital after.
No way.
I had to go to A&E, because my head would not stop bleeding. So like, I'd come backstage, I got cleaned up, and as soon as I would like put my head down to put my like gear in my bag or my suitcase or anything, or like bend over to tie my shoes, like my head would just start bleeding again. So the paramedic was like, you need to go to hospital. And big up Crowley because he stayed with me the entire time, made sure that I had all my favorite snacks and drinks and everything like that. So it came at a price, the cut on my forehead, and the glass slipper, because I ended up staying an extra night in London that I didn't want to.
Absolutely. Because, wow, look at that.
Yeah, there's brutal, isn't it? I'm pretty sure Nina wore those shoes for her wedding day, by the way. Honest to God, because like after it, she was like, "These are actually beautiful. I might wear them for my wedding." So I'm pretty sure she did.
Well, let's hope she wiped all the blood off first, hey? But I mean, you know, there's also footage out there of Nina taking a sick bump off of the top turnbuckle through a table on the outside, and as you can tell with these pictures, I think with that's certainly Lego in the ring. But was there thumbtacks or some other sharp objects in there? What sort of toys were you playing with that afternoon?
Yeah, there was that wooden clock thing that I hit her over the back with. That was real heavy, by the way. Like, I don't know where that was from, but it was so heavy. Like, I felt like I was picking up like a 12-kilogram weight. I was like, what is this? But yeah, there was Lego, there was thumbtacks, kendo sticks, a bin, tables, chairs. She just subdued the chair at me as well. I ended up with a big lump on my head, like Quasimodo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Honest to God, I had this humongous lump on my head the next day. It was the worst I've ever looked, and my hair was greasy because because of the cut, they'd glued it, and I couldn't wash my hair for like 5 days. So I paid a price for that match and all the toys that we used in it.
Absolutely, and like I say, I was there. I think I might have been working merch that day for Progress, but the atmosphere. I don't think anybody really knew what to expect from the match going into it. In fact, everybody was very confused. I did the Progress hype show. Yeah, no, this is it. And I did the Progress hype show with Mike Angus leading into Super Strong Style, and we couldn't really tell much about it. Now, the kind of really cool thing about it was the single show that really sold Super Strong Style for a long time. That single match, it was advertised months before Super Strong Style, and off the strength of that one match, they pretty much sold out Strong Style before they even started announcing any other matches, didn't they?
Yeah, we were so grateful as well to Progress. Like, I remember when one of the guys told us, there was like, by the way, you're the first announcement for Strong Style. And it didn't even like register in my brain, because I was like, oh, well, they must mean the first match announced for Strong Style, because surely they've got like 16 people to announce. and other matches as well on top of that, like tag matches. So he must mean we're the first match to be announced. But no, we were the first thing announced for Strong Style, and it was announced like months and months and months in advance as well. Like it wasn't just like the show before. So yeah, that was real cool.
It was indeed. It was indeed. A question that came through before we went live from Darin. Now, he enjoyed the Clock Strikes Midnight match with Nina Samuels last year in Progress. What was it like competing in that type of match? Which I think you may have already answered, but he did have a second part. Will there be another Clock Strikes Midnight match in the near future? And if so, with whom? So I think that the Clock Strikes Midnight match could be classed as maybe your signature match now. So you can kind of take this around with you. But if there was another Clock Strikes Midnight match with yourself, possibly in Progress, who would you like to get in there with?
So it's difficult to answer that one, to be honest, because obviously now I'm with Crowley in Progress, and the cheeky little buggers are now part of the Progress roster as a duo and a tag. So it would have to be some sort of tag match, but there's not really been anything big happen yet that I think would justify it, because it's just as brutal on me as it is on my opponents. But I do want that kind of to be my match now, because I know that there's not one like it ever. Like I say, the only one that's really even similar is that one with Regal.
Sure.
And it's just not quite the same. So I think if anyone did one now, I would be like, oi, hang on 1 minute. That's my that's mine right there. Don't be robbing that off me. But yeah, I'm not sure who it would be yet, but hopefully it would be part of a tag match.
Absolutely.
I can't see it going any other way, really, considering I'm not allowed to wrestle for the women's championship.
You need to trademark and copyright that match stipulations so that nobody else can take it or take it as theirs. That's what I say.
I'm gonna, but they're that stressful, to be honest, that anybody that even wanted to rob it, I think I might even just, if they do, I would be fuming, but I'd be like, go on then, try it and see if you want to do it again. Like, try it.
And Crowley sends through another message, but a bit more serious this time. In all seriousness, stupidly hardworking, more now than ever, an absolute star in the making. And then, but enough about me. Alexxis is great as well.
I hate him.
I honestly thought for a second he was being genuine.
I did. I'm going to smack him when I see him.
Oh, God, Crowley. Unbelievable. What a twat. What a twat.
He is. I've sang his praises on this as well. Little rat.
Unbelievable. Right, that's enough. I'm not showing any more of his comments.